And as Xi Jinping cracks down on Chinese banks, thousands of miles away, one question is buzzing across Europe. Has Xi Jinping launched the golden age of Chinese diplomacy? Is he now the diplomatic emperor of 3/4 of this world? I am not asking these questions to boost Xi Jinping's ego. I ask them because of two recent developments that indicate how China, till recently considered an outlier, has suddenly started to expand its influence with startling momentum. Take the two theaters of conflict, one in West Asia, where two perennial foes, Iran and Saudi Arabia, have agreed to a breakthrough understanding in a deal brokered by Beijing. And the second, of course, is Europe, where the war in Ukraine has created nuclear fissures. China's peace plan on the Ukraine war is becoming a platform for discussion. If you need more proof, then just look at who all are in China right now. The foreign minister of Iran, Hossein Amir Abdollahian, the foreign minister of Saudi Arabia, Prince Faisal bin Farhan Al Saud, and the president of the French Republic, Emmanuel Macron. As I speak, all three of them are meeting CCP officials in Beijing, trying to douse the flames of their respective geopolitical flashpoints. Let me start with West Asia. This afternoon, the foreign ministers of Riyadh and Tehran met in Beijing. And what was this meeting all about? Well, the decision to restore bilateral ties and reopen their respective embassies. And guess who presided over this meeting? The Chinese foreign minister himself. And this was not a closed-door meeting, by the way. It was a meeting filled with optics. Just have a look at these visuals. They show the three leaders awkwardly posing for the cameras. And soon, the Chinese foreign minister nudges them for a three-way handshake. The leaders comply and break into smiles. You have to watch this.
Thank you.
China must be feeling really proud of itself for having pulled this off. After all, it's not every day that you see the Saudis and the Iranians having a laugh together. And the fact that this happened on Chinese soil raises the country's profile as a global diplomatic power, one that could match or even upstage the United States of America. For the Saudis have clearly moved away from America's zone of influence. And here's another reason why I say this. The presence of Emmanuel Macron in Beijing on the same day when the Chinese foreign minister sat down with the leaders from West Asia. The Chinese president was holding talks with his French counterpart. Have a look at these visuals now. They are from a bilateral meeting between officials from both countries. And if you go by what they said, it will seem as if they are not on two opposing sides of the war, but allies. Listen to this.
The world today is undergoing profound historical changes. As permanent members of the United Nations Security Council and major countries with a tradition of independence, China and France, as promoters of the multipolarization of the world and the democratization of international relations, have the ability and responsibility to transcend differences and restraints.
The Russian aggression in Ukraine has dealt a blow to this stability. It ended decades of peace in Europe. I know I can count on you. Moreover, under the two principles I have just mentioned, to bring Russia to its senses and everyone to the negotiating table.
Did you hear what Macron told Xi Jinping? I know I can count on you to bring Russia to the negotiating table. And what Macron said next must have surprised European policymakers all the more. At a joint press conference shortly after the bilateral, he congratulated China for brokering peace in West Asia, a much-needed validation for Xi Jinping and an indication that he expects Europe to trust Xi Jinping to bring peace in Ukraine as well. Listen to this now.
Let's start talking about peace and stability. We will have the opportunity to come back on many subjects in our discussions tonight and tomorrow. In regards to the situation in the Middle East, the reapproachment between Saudi Arabia and Iran, I congratulate you on this very important progress.
And how do we view such statements? Is Macron pushing European leaders to engage with Xi Jinping? Does he want them to consider China's 12-point peace plan? Well, it certainly seems like it. For guess who is in Macron's entourage on this visit? The President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen. And here's what the leader said a day before meeting Xi Jinping. He warned Europe about the risks of cutting off China. He said Europe must resist reducing trade and diplomatic ties with Beijing. Let me quote the exact statement. There is that impression that decoupling from the Chinese economy is already underway and that the only remaining question is over pace and intensity. I do not believe, in any case, I do not want to believe in this scenario. And how should we view this? Is China's diplomatic blitz succeeding after all? Is China's charm offensive slowly bearing results? Again, it certainly seems like it. In West Asia, you have Saudi Arabia and Iran. They have put their trust in China to broker peace. In Europe, the second largest economy, France, has put its trust in Beijing once again to end the Ukraine war. And even Ukraine, by the way, the country bearing the brunt of the Russian aggression, is backing China's peace plan. The Ukrainian president himself is asking Xi Jinping to visit Kiev. What is this, if not a vindication of the Chinese president's efforts to cast himself as a global peacemaker? He is leveraging his country's economic clout in third-party negotiations, leveraging his influence to stabilize volatile parts of the world. Yes, he might have ulterior motives. Yes, these mediations could secure important diplomatic, geopolitical, and economic benefits for Chinese interests. But it seems more and more countries have calculated that the value of Chinese diplomatic brokerage is worth the price that China can extract. That it is worth the price of even causing American displeasure. The return of China to global diplomacy does worry one country more than any other, and that, of course, is the United States of America. For China is occupying the space which Washington has commanded since the 1950s, and indeed which America expanded in the 1990s after the collapse of the Soviet Union. And China has not hidden its ambition to replace America as the world's foremost and most effective diplomatic powerhouse. WION now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the updates on the move.